So it's May 3rd, 2025 in Prabhupada Desh near Venice, Italy. And we're reading the second verse of the Chatur Shloki. Somehow, those are the verses that they're reading here in Prabhupada Desh at this time. Krishna's plan, not my plan. So we read the first one yesterday where Krishna says, Vishnu speaking to Brahmā, says that, what did he say yesterday? Anybody remember? All right.
In the beginning I existed, and during the creation I exist, and after the creation I still exist.
I exist before, during, and after the creation. And only I am existent. Everything is me. Yes. And so if everything is Krishna, what is Maya? Today we're going to find out what is Maya. So this is text 34. So Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 34. Rthaṁ yat pratīyeta na pratīyeta cātmani tad vidyād ātmano māyāṁ yathābhāso yathā tamaḥ. Please chant. Yathābhāso yathā tamaḥ. Pratīyeta na pratīyeta cātmani tad vidyād ātmano māyāṁ yathābhāso yathā tamaḥ. Rthaṁ yat pratīyeta pratīyeta cātmani tad vidyād ātmano māyāṁ yathābhāso yathā tamaḥ. Rthaṁ yat pratīyeta na pratīyeta cātmani yat vidyād ātmano māyāṁ yathābhāso yathā tamaḥ. Rite, without, rthaṁ, value, yat, that which, pratīyeta, appears to be, na, not, pratīyeta, appears to be, cha, and, ātmani, in relation to me, tat, that, vidyād, you must know. By the way, this word vidyād is in the imperative. It's a form of Sanskrit that's an order. You have to know. I like that. Ātmanaha, māyāṁ, illusory energy, yathā, just as, abhāsaha, the reflection, yathā, as, tamaḥ, the darkness. Srila Prabhupada's translation. By the way, this is one of my favorite verses, so I'm a little nervous speaking in front of all of you highly learned people, and the only mitigation is that I love this verse. Srila Prabhupada's translation. If I'm going too fast for your simultaneous translation, or if you need some clarification about anything, just signal me, okay? Okay. O Brahmā, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality, know it to be my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Now, I'm not going to read the entire purport. It's a very, 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 very long purport, so I'm just going to read sections of it. Whenever there is forgetfulness of the prime relation with the Lord, and whenever things are accepted as real without being related to the Lord, that conception is called a product of the illusory energy of the Lord. Because nothing can exist without the Lord, it should be known that the illusory energy is also an energy of the Lord, which is interesting. That energy which allows us to see something separate from the Lord is also an energy of the Lord. So even the ability to think something is separate from the Lord comes from the Lord. Even that is not disconnected. Accepting a rope as a snake is illusion, but the rope is not false. The rope, as it exists in front of the illusion person, is not at all false, but the acceptance is illusory. Therefore, the wrong conception of accepting this material manifestation as being divorced from the energy of the Lord is illusion, but it is not false. And this illusory conception is called the reflection of the reality in the darkness of ignorance. In all circumstances, the Lord and the living entities are individual personalities. In all circumstances, Prabhupada is saying. And the personal features of both the Lord and living beings are never abolished. Only the influence of the illusory energy, the reflection of light in the darkness, can, by the mercy of the Lord, be removed. In other words, we are all always persons. Enlightenment means to get rid of an illusion that I am a person without a relationship with the Lord. Going on, the identity of the self as being unconnected with the Supreme Self, the Lord, is also an illusion. Now, Prabhupada is going to give some examples of illusion. The medical practitioner may deny the existence of the soul in the physiological bodily construction of an individual person. Do they do that? Yes. But he cannot give life to a dead body, even though all the mechanisms of the body exist even after death. So that's an example of illusion. Another example, the psychologist makes a serious study of the physiological conditions of the brain, as if the construction of the cerebral lump were the machine of the functioning mind. But in the dead body, the psychologist cannot bring back the function of the mind. These scientific studies of the cosmic manifestation or the bodily construction independent of the Supreme Lord are different reflective intellectual gymnastics only. But at the end, they are all illusion and nothing more. Now this is important. This next fact is very important. And this next fact is something that we may assume in our Hare Krishna movement, if we've hung around for a week or two, that we all know and take for granted. But I've been seeing a phenomena happening in our movement by which it has become very clear to me that we do not take this for granted, and we do not necessarily really understand this. The same man, however, is enlightened in the disciplic succession from Brahmāji, who is personally instructed by the Lord, or in the disciplic succession from Arjuna, who is personally instructed by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. The living entities are also a display of the Lord's superior energy, para-bhakti, just as the material world is a display of the Lord's inferior energy, apre. The superior energy of the Lord cannot be as good as the Lord, although there is very little difference between the energy and the possessor of the energy, or the fire and the heat. The living energy represented by the living entities is the reflection of the Lord, and never the Lord himself. Being the reflection of the Lord, the existence of the living entity is dependent on the Supreme Lord, who is the original light. So, we are vibhinamsa, expansions of the Lord. And Prabhupada says here that we are like reflections of the Lord's light. And without being connected with Him, we can't have any independent light. No one can make a solution of the darkness of ignorance simply by the reflection of light. Correct? Similarly, no one can come out of material existence simply by the reflected light of the common man. One has to receive the light from the original light itself. So we cannot get out of this illusion by some ordinary person's speculations. In darkness, no one can see the things in a room. Therefore, a person in the dark is afraid of snakes and scorpions, although there may not be such things. But in the light, the things in the room can be clearly seen, and the fear of snakes and scorpions is at once removed. Therefore, one has to take shelter of the light of the Lord. God can be seen by the light of God, and not by man-made speculations. Here, this light is specifically mentioned as vidyād, which is an order by the Lord to Brahmā. You must know. It's in the imperative. This direct order of the Lord is a manifestation of His internal energy, and this particular energy is the means of seeing the Lord face to face. Not only Brahmā, but anyone who may be graced by the Lord to see such merciful, direct internal energy can also realize the personality of Godhead without any mental speculation. Rthaṁ yat pratīyeta, na pratīyeta cātmani, tad vidyād ātmano māyāṁ, yathābhāso tamaḥ. O Brahmā, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it to be my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. So one of the main questions that people have, including devotee people in the Hare Krishna movement, is what's a spiritual desire and what's a material desire? How do I know what's real and what's not real? How do I know what's material and what's spiritual? How do I know what is Krishna's desire? How do I dovetail my desires with His? What's good for me and what's bad for me? Yes, if I think about like the top 5 questions that I been asked by thousands of people all over the world, this is one of the top ones. How can I recognize Maya? And how can I recognize Krishna? So we're going to look a little bit at Mahamaya, and we're going to look a little bit at Yogamaya, and then we're going to look a little bit about how we're going to know what's going on. So Mahamaya is when we think something has value separately from Krishna. We think something has value separately from Krishna. Like I'm staying here in Prabhupada Desh, right? And I have a place to sleep, and I have a desk and so many nice things, a washing machine I can use. And if I think, oh, this is very nice, I will take it home. So that's not going to make Guru Charan very happy. But if I appreciate it here, if I say, thank you so much for providing, right? If I say, thank you so much, Prabhu, for providing me such nice facility, then he's very happy. It's simple. If I'm seeing things in relationship to the person who's managing it or the person who owns it, then that person is very happy and everything is compatible. And if I see it without that relation, nothing is compatible and everything is unhappy. So generally we see things of value without relationship to Krishna. And I'm thinking these things are my source of happiness or my source of protection. And first is this body. I'm thinking this body is going to be the source of my enjoyment. Now maybe you can think that way when you're 16 or 17. But when you get to be 70 or 80, that's a little harder to think like that. It becomes more, my body is the source of my suffering. But with thinking like that, my body is my shelter. Right? It's one of our big anxieties that my body will get injured or sick, and then what will I do? I won't have any shelter anymore. Or my mind is my shelter. My knowledge, my education, my understanding, my memory, that's my shelter. Oh my goodness, what if something happens to my mind? And it's not just us old people who worry about that, even younger people. You know, there may be a car accident or something and you get a stroke, something, right? That's my shelter. What am I going to do without my mind? Or other people, they'll be my shelter. My family, my friends, the other devotees, they'll be my shelter. Does that always work either? No, just live long enough and you'll know. That doesn't always work. The people you count on may not be there for you. They may even turn on you. Yes? Or maybe my animals, my dogs, my cats, my cows, my sheep, they'll be my shelter. My family won't talk to me anymore, but I have my dog. I actually know one devotee who said that to me. My children have rejected me, she said, but at least I have my dog. Or my things, my phone, my passport, my money in the bank. They even call money in the bank securities, right? It's my security. And if we think these things are going to give me pleasure and shelter separately from Krishna, then we're constantly in anxiety because these are all false shelters. And we know they're all false shelters. We're hoping they'll only be false shelters for other people and not for me, but, you know, they're all false shelters. This concept, as Prabhupada says here in the purport, he says, in the previous verse we learned that nothing is separate from the Lord. Here we learn that the appearance of separateness is the very definition of illusion. We talked yesterday about how we see this world as the body of God, yes? The taste of water, Prabhupada especially quotes that verse from the 7th chapter. That's God. The light of the sun in this room, that's God. Our ability, that's Krishna. All the sounds, that's Krishna. To actually see everything in relation to Him. And as soon as we don't, as soon as we think, oh, it's just water, it's just sunlight, it's just my ability, it's just trees, it's just birds. Oh, there are birds. No, that's the evidence of Krishna being an artist. The trees are His hair, the clouds are His hair. The sunrise and the sunset are the movements of His garments, His saffron, yellow, orangey garments through the sky. Premanjana charita bhakti vilotanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayinti yam sharma sundaramachincha gunaswarupam. And please don't think that's only for some very elevated Mahabhagavata that I will never become. For everyone can find Krishna. Prabhupada would say over and over again. He was in Japan and one young man said, how can I see God? And Prabhupada said, are you drinking water? Are you seeing the sun? You see that everything is in relationship to God. The intelligence of the intelligent. Whenever we do something intelligent, wow, that was smart. That's Krishna. And amazingly, even the ability to forget Krishna is Krishna. The illusion that I can just see, oh, it's the sun, oh, it's just water, oh, it's just my intelligence. That's also Krishna. Matasmatir jnanam apohanam cha, even our forgetfulness. Oh my goodness, I was just chanting a whole round of japa and I didn't think of Krishna. Even that ability to forget Krishna is Krishna. Just can't get away from it, you know. The whole material world is, how can I forget the relationship with Krishna? So Mahamaya is defined, right? Whenever we think something is real without a relationship with Krishna. In the purport, Prabhupada says, the identity of the self as being unconnected with the Supreme Self, the Lord, is also illusion, and the false claim that I am the Supreme is the last illusory snare, a snare is like a trap, of the same Maya or the external energy of the Lord. So there is a philosophy going around our Hare Krishna movement by somebody who has separated himself from the parampara, that we were not, and is affecting devotees in our Hare Krishna movement. Even though he has separated himself from the parampara, he has denounced Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as teaching apasiddhanta. He's using that word, Bhaktivinoda Thakur taught apasiddhanta. His own spiritual master has rejected him, and he is going around in ISKCON communities saying that we are not originally persons. We become persons by the process of sadhana bhakti. And he asked to talk to me. He asked to talk to me. And so I said to him, so how are we persons? How are we persons? How are we persons? And he said, well, we're potentially persons. And I quoted this verse and I said, anything of value that's not in relation to the Lord is an illusion. If you say, well, I'm a person now in this life, but that's not the real me. This white American lady from New York who does research and stuff, that's not me. The particular personality I have in this life, some parts of which I like and some parts of which I don't like, and some parts of which people appreciate and some parts of which people are going, oh, why does she like that? That's not me. I've had different personalities in different lifetimes, like I've had different bodies in different lifetimes. I like to quote the famous actress Julia Roberts, who calls herself a Hindu, and she actually has taken initiation from some Vrindavan Vaishnava. And she says, in this life, I'm very front of the room, and next life I want to be a quiet person in the background. So we change the nature of our personality from one life to another. Isn't it? Yes? That can't be the essence of who I am. I wouldn't even want it to be the essence of who I am. Does any of you want to be your present body and personality forever? These religions that talk about how we're going to be resurrected from the grave, with this body. And I'm like, ugh. And I'll ask them, at what age? Do I have to be an old lady forever? Or do I have to be 2 years old forever? And then they just concoct something, And I said, suppose I don't like my body. My nose is too big and my hair is too wispy. And, well, you'll like it. I don't think so, Or these religions that say if you get married in their temple, you'll be married to that person eternally. And I'm thinking, is that really attractive to most people? Maybe to some people, but I don't know about to everybody. So if we're an eternal person without beginning, Prabhupada quotes in the previous purport about Krishna telling Arjuna that never was a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. Then you know what? We must be a person without beginning in relationship to Krishna, or else it's not real. Does this make sense to everybody? If my personality is not beginningless in relationship to Krishna, then by Krishna's definition, that personality is an illusion. And such a philosophy is called māyāṁ. If something is real, it's in relationship to Krishna. If it's not in relation, if we see it as not in relationship to Krishna, that whole conception is the definition of illusion. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in his commentary on this verse how Mahamaya works. I wanted to read a little bit from his commentary. He says, avidya does not destroy real objects, but creates misconceptions. And Prabhupada picks up on this in his purport, which we read a little bit of. In light, one sees the objects in a house and does not see imaginary thieves. In darkness, one does not see the real object in a house, but does see imaginary thieves. So I would have this experience. Our oldest son has a house in Hawaii, and I would like to take a walk early in the morning up and down the street. And there were some electrical poles and mailboxes that, when it was still semi-dark outside, looked like 3 people standing on the street. And I knew, because I would take a walk pretty much every morning, I knew that that was a mailbox and lamppost. But every single morning when I went and looked at it, who's standing on the street at 4 o'clock in the morning? Similarly, in spiritual knowledge, one sees one's spiritual form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Oh, eternity. We have a spiritual form of eternity. Eternity means without beginning. Not just without end, without beginning. In spiritual knowledge, one sees one's spiritual form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. In ignorance, one does not see one's eternal, blissful, and knowledgeable nature, although it is present. It's not just Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada who say that Krishna consciousness is dormant in the heart of all living entities. It's all our previous acharyas. Our nature, our personality, our spiritual body is present. We just don't see it because we're covered by darkness, but it's already there. And Srila Prabhupada used that verse from Madhya, I think it's 22:107, to establish why he could spread Krishna consciousness to all the countries and cultures of the world. Because Krishna consciousness is already there. Our spiritual life is already there. It simply has to be awakened. What would he say? It's not an artificial imposition on the mind. It's what's already natural. In fact, the whole Vedic canon is based on the concept of removing the illusion to see what is already there. Indeed, one sees the body, lamentation and illusion, although they have no permanent existence. Though flowers and horns exist because they are not related to sky and rabbit, a flower in the sky and a rabbit with a horn are false. Similarly, though bodies and lamentation, confusion, happiness, and distress all exist as expansions of real matter, the body, lamentation, confusion, happiness, and distress are all called false in the scriptures because they have no real relation to the jiva. Though the relationship of the jiva with the body is false, it is produced by a vidya and destroyed by vidya. And of course, we know Prabhupada gave some examples of illusion in the purport. What examples did he give? Snake in a rope. What else? A doctor and a patient. Right, the doctor who says what? There's no what? Soul. There's no soul. That the person is just the product of the body. But yet, when they have all the elements of the body, they cannot create a person. And the other example was that of a psychologist who says that, now their Prabhupada's not talking about the soul, he's talking about the mind. When they say that the mind is simply the brain. By the way, there's all kinds of interesting medical anomalies of people who are born with like only half a brain and no one even knew until they were older and had some reason to do some kind of scan. They thought the person was basically normal. Maybe they had some slight physical problem. And then, oh my God, half the brain is missing. Or I recently read a fascinating book about neuroplasticity and how, you know, when parts of the brain get damaged, how other parts can take it over. It's not just that the brain is the mind. There's something else using the brain and using the brain in a way that the scientists can't figure out. Okay, so that's Mahamaya. Now we're going to look at Yogamaya. So Yogamaya is an energy of union. It's an energy of connection with the Lord rather than separation from the Lord. Right? Mahamaya, you're detaching something from the Lord. Yogamaya, you're connecting with the Lord. Srila Vishwanath Thakur says, Maya acts partially favorably and partially unfavorably toward the jiva, trying to attain knowledge and realization of Paramatma. When one realizes Paramatma, then only Yogamaya functions, and Yogamaya acts only favorably. Material Maya covers objects from a view without a spiritual purpose, whereas Yogamaya covers objects with a specific spiritual purpose. So they're both a kind of covering. But Mahamaya, although it can be favorable, it can also be unfavorable. Yogamaya is only favorable. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives some examples. Yasoda seeing the universal form within Krishna's mouth. And then she starts thinking, oh, I guess I'm an illusion, thinking that I'm the queen of Vrindavan and that Krishna is my child. And then she gets under Yogamaya, oh, my little child. Arjuna seeing the universal form. Yasoda unable to find Krishna, although he had bells on his waist. And Yasoda being unable to tie Krishna. Right? He already had a little belt on, and yet she couldn't put a rope around him. So this is Yogamaya. And I don't know what that looked like. Have you ever tried to think of what kind of a picture that was? Because they got ropes from all over the village. I mean, it must have been very long. It must have gone at least from one end of this room to another. And little Krishna is just like this small, you know. And at first Mother Yasoda was angry. Why are you stealing the butter again? How am I going to cook for you if you're always stealing the butter? Right? Like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was young, and he asked for some garlands to worship Ganga. And Sachi said, just wait a minute. I don't want to wait a minute. And he had a big tantrum. And he broke everything in the kitchen. And then he was tired after his tantrum. So he lay down on the floor and went to sleep. And when he got up and he saw what he had done, he was embarrassed. And Mother Sachi said, look, it's your house. You can break everything if you want to, but how am I going to cook for you now? You've destroyed everything in the kitchen. So Mother Yasoda is angry at Krishna stealing the butter for two reasons. Because she wanted to use that butter to make something nice for him, and now it's all ruined because he just gave it all to the monkeys. And also because she's thinking it's her responsibility to train Krishna nicely. Which, if you think about this in terms of tattva, is ridiculous. Krishna's training everyone else. Right? Dharmam tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma is coming from Krishna. What are you going to teach him about Dharma? This happens in Mahaprabhu's Leela too, where Jagannath Mishra one time really gave his son Nimai a hard time about something. And then he has this dream where this yogi says, your son is God. You can't tell him what to do. He says, I don't care who he is. It's my job as his father. You know? So Mother Yasoda is thinking, if my son has this habit of stealing and breaking things, how is he going to grow up to be a gentleman? Then it will be on me that I didn't train him nicely. Will he be happy in life? Right? So she's angry. Anger is one of the secondary rasas, and sometimes the object is Krishna. So she's angry at Krishna. Why aren't you behaving? And as long as she's angry at Krishna, even though it's also a rasa, she has this long, long, long rope. Again, I can't picture this. Like how are they putting this rope? It's so long. And then finally she starts laughing because the whole situation is completely absurd. And once she starts laughing and she's not angry, then Krishna lets her tie him up. So this is Yoga Maya, that she's not thinking, wait a minute, none of this makes the slightest bit of sense. Yes? Or even you're seeing the universe in your child's mouth. Right? That doesn't, how does that make sense? Another example Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives, Krishna simultaneously manifests in form to Shrudadev and Bahulasva. So this is Yogamaya. Each one of them thought Krishna was only with them, and to Rukmini and Satyabhama in their houses. Of course, he did this with all of the queens. And it's interesting, when Krishna marries the 16,100 princesses, he marries them all on the same day. And not only is he in all the weddings at the same time, but all of his family members are too. So the bride's family is just that bride's family is there. But Krishna's family is in 16,100 places at a time. So Vasudev, Devaki, there's 16,100 Vasudevs and Dev. And the same thing happened with Shrudadev and Bahulasva, that the rishis and yogis, they also expanded themselves. Prabhupada writes in a letter that the liberated jiva can also expand. Wow. I wanted to do that when I was a child because I found school excruciatingly boring. And so I figured I had to be in school. So I thought, let me just have one expansion in school and let me have another expansion, at the beach or something. But the liberated jiva can do that, and of course can be in different leelas at once. Like a jiva can be a monkey in Ram Leela, and one of the Brahmin friends of Mahaprabhu in another Leela, and a cowherd boy with Krishna in Krishna's Leela, all at the same time. And be in the pastimes in the spiritual world and the pastimes in the material world. Now, we can't expand in every atom like Krishna, but the jiva can also expand. So this is also Yogamaya. So simultaneously manifesting two different forms for Shrudadev and Bahulasva and hiding one form from each is different from the Yogamaya acting only on one person, such as Yasoda. So those are different examples of Yogamaya, or the general mood of Krishna's intimate devotees, where they lose awareness that he's God. Now, it's not exactly that they don't know he's God, like when the gopis are searching for Krishna, they say, you are not really the son of Mother Yasoda, you are really the indwelling witness in everyone's heart. So it's not that they don't know. But that knowledge is so irrelevant, and it's like way in the back of their consciousness. It's not something that they're openly aware of. I would guess that something similar happens with intimate family members of some president or politician or whatever. That when the politician is alone with his wife, she knows he's the president. It's not like she doesn't know, but it's not in her thoughts, and it's not in her dealings. She's still going to say, why are you leaving your socks on the floor? Which she's not going to say to her president husband at a state dinner, but it privately, and he's not going to say, how dare you speak to me like that? I'm the president of, So that awareness recedes. Yes? So it's so far back that it's like it's not there. And therefore the devotees will say, like Prabhupada will say that Krishna wants to see Radharani when she's angry, and Lalita will say, I'm sorry, you can't go in. I don't have the order to let you in. And Krishna can't go in. And Lalita's not thinking, oh, he's God. How can I forbid him from going someplace? Or the cowherd boy is saying, Krishna, you have to carry us on your shoulder. And this would be very offensive if we're thinking that, I'm going to stand on Kornitai's shoulders or something like that. So this is Yogamaya that allows for this sweetness of reciprocation. So even though it's a kind of covering, it's a covering that increases the relationship with the Lord. So illusion is something that separates us from the relationship with the Lord. And although Yogamaya, we could say, is a kind of illusion, it actually attaches you more to the Lord. All right, how are we going to know all of this? How are we going to understand all this? Right, so Prabhupada writes in the purport, in the previous verse, the absolute truth and its nature have been explained. One must also understand the relative truth to actually know the absolute truth. The relative truth, which is called Maya or material nature, is explained here. Now, Prabhupada wrote that in his purport to CC Adi 154, which is exactly the same verse. So these 4 verses are also repeated in Adi 1. And any of you who've studied our ISKCON hermeneutics, you know that we have taken from the last purport where Prabhupada summarizes all of these verses, the 10 points of Siddhanta, of a concise statement of Siddhanta. So we have to know both Maya and Krishna. We have to know both Maya and Krishna. We're going to talk about that a little bit in the philosophy of education. And one of the many, many things that has attracted me to this philosophy and this practice of Gaudiya Vaishnavism under Srila Prabhupada, and that keeps me here, is this very comprehensive knowledge of God and comprehensive knowledge of the material nature. So in most religions of the world, neither is present. They don't know much about God. God is great, and God is great, and He's great, and He gets angry, and He's merciful, and He's great, and it kind of ends there. And how does the material nature work? Again, they don't really know. So our understanding of like the modes of nature, the creation, it's all very detailed, and one must know both. And of course, this statement that one must know both is there twice in what Shastra? Ishopanishad, yes. Then the point that Prabhupada reiterates here, which is what I'll end with, is that in order to get out of darkness, we need real light from the original light. The reflected light from a conditioned jiva will not give us real light. It has to be God or His representative. We cannot speculate. We may be extremely intelligent and we may be extremely educated, but all we have if we are disconnected from the parampara is reflected light. We may bewilder people with that reflected light, but it won't work. And something Prabhupada also says in the Adi Lila purport, one of my favorite statements and one of the most heart-wrenching. Actually, the living entities are not illusory, for they are parts of the superior energy of the Supreme Lord and do not have to be covered by Maya if they do not want to be so. Encouraging and discouraging at the same time. We say that it's causeless mercy, but it's causeless mercy. Yeyatamam prapadyante tam sajaiva bhajamnaham. Krishna is responsive. My dear friends, I don't know about any of you, but I am in Maya because I want to be in Maya. Krishna is not forcing anyone to be in Maya, and I could be out of Maya if I wanted to be out of Maya. It's my problem. It's not Krishna's problem. It's not Prabhupada's problem. It's not the GBC's problem. It's my problem. And only my problem. Prabhupada was asked, why is Maya so strong? He says, because your desire is not strong. So the entire process of Krishna consciousness, as Krishna gives it in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 9. In text 8, he says, always think of me with love. And text 9, he says, if you can't do that, do abhyas yoga, sadhana bhakti. Why? To develop icha, to develop a desire. Everything we're doing, our 16 rounds, our 3 gayatris, our worshiping the deity, our taking prasadam, our having this communication conference, everything is meant to increase our desire. I want to love Krishna. I want to see everything in relationship with Krishna. I want to stop seeing myself as separate from Krishna. So how are we going to know what's real, what's false, what I should do, what I should not do, what's spiritual, what's material? We have to know both illusion and reality. We have to know the real, the spiritual, the jiva's spiritual desire, the Lord's desire, as they are, and use everything as they are intended to be used. What is false is when I see things as separate. To remember that the energy that allows me to see things as separate, the energy that allows me to forget, that is also Krishna. He is there even in my forgetfulness. When I see myself and everything else in relationship to Krishna and act in that consciousness, then I am in sync with the Lord and the Lord's desire. So I have been ordered to stop now, so I have to just stop now. So thank you very much. Anything good in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada, from the Shastra and our Acharyas. Anything bad in this presentation is from me. Please take the good and leave aside the bad. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.